Welcome to BioNTX Presents, Inside Innovation. I am Eric B. Moore, Chief Communications Officer of Bio North Texas. And today we're taking a look at something that shapes how innovation is seen, remembered, and trusted, naming and branding. In life sciences, a name is more than a label. It is a promise of safety, efficacy, and impact. And few organizations understand that better than Brand Institute, the official branding and innovation partner of BioNTX. And I am so happy to have this group of gentlemen with me today. And let me start with introductions. First, we have Scott Piergrossi, President of Creative. Scott, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us, Eric.
Awesome. We've got Brian Frasca, Divisional President, here with us as well.
Good to see you, Eric.
Yes,
always a pleasure.
Thank you. And we've got Jack Stohlquist, Vice President of Brand Development, who leads the Southern region with an emphasis today, at least, on Dallas. Thank you for being here.
That's right, Eric. Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Gentlemen, it is so exciting to have you. Thank you for making the trip from Chicago. I know travel is a challenge in these
we
times.
We were okay this time.
Nice.
And thank the air gods that you made it safely. So thank you. So we're gonna jump right in.
That's good.
So the first section we're going to talk about is the art and science of naming. The art and science of naming. And I'll start with you, Scott.
Okay.
Scott, naming in life sciences demands a rare mix of creativity, precision, and all of the things that go along with that. What defines a great name, and how do you ensure it speaks to both scientists and to patients alike?
Well, it's a great question to start with. We like to say that naming is one of the most, if not the most subjective marketing discipline. You could put two groups in two different rooms and have them create for the same product, come out with wildly different names, right? So what we try to do is provide a framework for what is a great name. And we believe that it really comes down to four things. The first being trademarkability. So is the name trademarkable, register in all the countries that it will be marketed and sold. Linguistics, is it appropriate? Or inversely, is it free of inappropriate connotations or associations?
Free of inappropriate.
I love that.
We have lists of them.
Then there's the regulatory side.
Yes.
So the name has to be, at least in the pharmaceutical world, has to be approvable by all the agencies you're submitting it to worldwide. And then the last is the commercial side, the marketing side. And that's what people think of when they think of a great name, right? What really sticks in their mind? What do they remember? What do they recall? What is nice to say? What is that jingle that they think of? And when it comes to marketing and commercial assessment, it really comes down to does the name really fit the product?
Yes.
Does it communicate the attributes and benefits? Is it relatively easy to pronounce? And does it embed or communicate a leverageable strategy in the marketing efforts? So if we look at a few pharmaceutical products, at least, some that your audience might be familiar with because they do advertise on TV, look at a name like Caplyta. Mm-hmm. So Caplyta is, again, easy to pronounce, but also very distinctive in the way it was constructed, which is important from a regulatory standpoint. It's for schizophrenia and depression and bipolar disorder. Mm-hmm. And the tagline, "Let in the Light," is meant to evoke that aspirational concept of a return of normalcy or a chance at being oneself again.
Yes.
So you have a name that's distinctive, trademarkable, free of inappropriate connotations, and ultimately a great marketing campaign that we have to give kudos to the ad agency that took the buck from us, the name from us, and developed the ad campaign around it. I gave you a couple more like Tremfya, with its tagline or former tagline, "Emerge Tremfyant." So again, a very positive, aspirational name for plaque psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis. And a name like Paxlovid.
Yeah.
If it's COVID, Paxlovid. If you want to remember for COVID, you want to prescribe Paxlovid because it's effective, it's safe, and you can count on it. So remembering the indication with the name. And then outside of pharmaceuticals, a diagnostic like Cologuard, which we partnered on. Our Chicago team partnered with Exact Sciences on it. It's a little more descriptive, a little more meaningful because there's a little more latitude from a naming perspective. So you have that ultimate protection against colon cancer. So those are the boundaries or criteria to find a great name. And then from a consumer or a patient versus physician standpoint, it really is what does the drug treat? Is it more of a lifestyle drug, or is it more serious indication? Are we marketing to perhaps oncologists in cancer, or something that's a little more OTC feel? But ultimately, we want to find the right tone based on the type of product it is and who it'll be marketed to.
That is, Scott, that is so cool. So I told a lot of my friends who aren't in this sector, right? They're in a variety of other sectors. And I said, I'm going to talk to the gentlemen and the team and the experts that come up with these great names, right? Because most people that aren't in the industry just think you just make them up. Right. But they don't understand that there's a process.
There is.
There's collaboration with the ad agencies, from everything from the names to the cadence to the linguistics. All of those things go into it. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things I'm most excited about this is that our audience gets to understand this at a deeper level, So we're very grateful for your partnership. We're very grateful for the expertise that you bring. And we're going to learn a little bit today.
Thank you, Eric.
Awesome. So Brian, over to you. From your perspective as divisional president, what shifts when companies starts to see their naming not just as a marketing task, but as a core strategic function in its commercialization journey? Scott talked a little bit about it, but can you take us a little bit deeper?
Well, I think from a company perspective, the biggest shift is always in money, right? They're always thinking about how are they going to market the product, and they understand. I think a lot of smaller companies maybe don't understand the impact of it and what it can do as far as fundraising is concerned, as far as clinical trials are concerned. So JAMA did a really great article probably 10 years ago and hasn't looked at it since, but clinical trials that have brands and names attached to them, so think logo, iconography, are probably 2 times more likely to get the funding they need and get the patients signed up for the project. So once you can change that and let people understand that even from phase 1, from the very early start of non-proprietary, which is sometimes called the generic naming, that very first part of it where it's chemistry based, that still can be brought through your entirety of your name. So when you think about something like Skyrizi, which is risankizumab, right? So RISA, R-I-S-A, is the prefix of that, of the full non-proprietary name.
That didn't have anything to do with the Wu-Tang Clan.
It did not. Even though Wu-Tang raised me, it did not.
So it didn't have anything to do with the Wu-Tang Clan for our audience. So thank you for that clarity.
It was more the idea of rising, right? And then you see that in Skyrizi. You saw it in their clinical trials. Their suffix at the end of their non-proprietary name is 4 little letters, but it's RISA. It's meant to be an homage to their name. So when you think about that and the impact that drug has had, that name has had, and carrying it all the way through from the very beginning, once people see that, that can change their trajectory. That also will change how the functions work. So they're going to start to bring in marketing people earlier on. That's a real shift that we see. We see the commercial folks saying, hey, we want a part of that. We want to know about the generic naming because we want to bring that throughout the entirety of its name. We work with a company. Their favorite color is red. They're based out of Indianapolis. They love taking their clinical trial names and having that relate to their brand name. And we've seen a few of those launch recently. That's really what it's about. We see the shift in bringing in the right people and certainly making sure that they're making the money that's going to bring the drug to market just based on some small tweaks, things like a logo or a name, really big changes. So.
I love that because, we talk a lot, and before I became Chief Communication Officer here, I started my career in traditional brand and marketing. I'm a madman, as they say, right? So having these conversations takes me back to the glory days of my career. So Brian, thank you for that. Jack, so you lead the development in the Dallas region, in the South primarily, but we're going to focus on Dallas, which happens to be one of the fastest growing biotech markets in the country. What are some of the patterns that you see locally that make North Texas such a fertile space for innovation and brand growth?
Yeah, absolutely. Exciting times down here in Dallas. And I say down here because we're from Chicago. But anecdotally, we work with a ventures firm in Dallas on the branding of one of their new spin-out companies. And the venture firm references Dallas-Fort Worth as the third coast within healthcare. Everyone's aware of the massive pharmaceutical manufacturers out in the LA, San Diego area, of course the tri-state, New York, New Jersey, and the boom in Boston over the last couple of decades. So we see a couple pillars already in place and then emerging in the Dallas area that surely leads to Dallas being the next up, if you will. So some of that would just be right off the bat population growth, right? So you have 450 people move to the Dallas-Fort Worth area every single day. You already have the hospital infrastructure in place, so the talent is here. And then from an overall effort standpoint, whether it be political or financial investment, we're seeing that start to emerge as well. So from a physical building standpoint, it's really cool to see that the lab space is being put in place so that basically the new science that's coming out of the hospital systems have places to actually develop their science.
We're at Bridge Labs, right?
It's
now.
here,
Yeah,
yeah.
Right
Bridge
next
Labs
door.
is hosting us, yeah. Yes.
And then as they get a little bit further into their development, building office space right next door so they could build out commercial teams and build their operations. And then even further down the line, as you mentioned earlier, potentially building actual manufacturing
Yes.
in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So all of that's obviously a massive financial investment. But if a company can literally be born in Dallas and go to market with a product and actually make the product, right next door, that's pretty cool. So all those pillars are in place. All of those things that we've seen lead to pretty big booms around the country. So.
Well, we're grateful for having you, and we look forward to seeing you a lot in our market.
Yes,
okay, to keep the momentum going. So thank you so much for that. Let us shift, gentlemen. Now let's shift to collaboration and process. We talked a little bit about collaboration and process relative to the naming and the creative elements and the logos and those things. Scott, back to you. Can you walk us through how your creative teams approach a new project, from ideation to client alignment and ultimately regulatory review?
Absolutely. And so I've been doing this 22 years. I've worked on a few naming projects, but ultimately it starts with...
You started out of high school?
Grammar school.
More or less out of college. Year out of college. But we look to our team in the field to cultivate the relationships to secure the trust from our clients to work on the projects, number one. But once we get started, usually it's late phase 2, early phase 3. They're looking for ultimate approval of the drug about 2 years after, give or take, when we start the naming work. So it starts long before the name ever comes to market. I think a lot of people don't recognize that.
Yeah.
Months-long processes of developing the name, trademarking it, submitting
Years
it to regulator.
sometimes.
We don't like to say years, but our part of the process.
Much long sounds.
Our start of the process is usually in that
Very
month's
true.
range. But so we'll have a kickoff meeting with the client. We'll come in with a strategy recommendation, understand the product, do our diligence, and really understanding the market and where we might take it creatively. But ultimately, it's a cross-functional team from the client side that we brainstorm with over about 2 hours. We prioritize creative direction and strategies. We identify everything down to specific letter sequences to explore, to broader imagery and metaphors. Which should we explore more benefits, the indication, the mechanism of action, et cetera. And we leave that meeting with our naming brief, and that really is kind of the Bible that we move forward with. Everything ties back to that brief.
Yes, of course.
And that serves as a document to provide that objectivity of the process.
The good old brief.
The old brief.
the brief. I love the brief.
Yeah, brief.
So the creative team will then start. We usually generate, when I started in 2003, we would generate several hundred names per project. Now we're in the 3,000 to 5,000 names per project range, simply because of the attrition related to the trademark and regulatory process. But we won't present 5,000 names to the client. We'll usually present about 75 to 100.
Science tells you that, right? Because you get 3,000 to 5,000 opinions, right?
We could start losing you after 100 names, that's for sure.
Start to fall asleep, yeah.
But the names have been heavily vetted that we ultimately present to the client. And then, we retain a set of names the client feels comfortable with, certainly some that they feel very positive about, eliminate the ones that are off-brief or the team they don't like for a variety of reasons. And the subsequent phases involve further whittling down from a trademark, regulatory, and linguistic standpoint to arrive at a short list of recommendations for submission to global regulators. So ultimately, we do rely on our market research to determine both the commercial viability as well as the regulatory viability of each name, and then make those recommendations. So we start with 5,000 to end up with maybe 8 that we recommend. So you can imagine that piece of the pie. So, but that goes to show when we present the first round of names, we say we're not marrying here, we're just dating. Because
just on the apps.
Yeah, we're swiping at this point. But keep an open mind, cast a wide net, present a variety of strategies, and ultimately you do come up with some short list of really diverse and unique options.
Agreed.
Awesome. I want. Can you promise me I can sit in on one of those sessions?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Just to be a fly on the wall.
And
I promise if my name doesn't get chosen, I won't take it personally.
Okay.
I promise. So Brian.
Yes.
You oversee collaboration across teams and divisions, right? You're a big shot, man. You're a big shot, brother. You're a big shot. How do you balance innovation with consistency when working with such a wide range of clients and therapeutic ideas?
Ooh, that's a great question. So, like Scott, I've been here a long time, about 15 years myself. I've actually also seen the process from very different lens. So I was on the operational side with Scott.
Yes, sir.
I moved to kind of more of a field role. Currently, I handle about 25 states for the company. I think one of the biggest things is the people. That's how we keep it consistent. Is Jack and I have been together for 10 years.
Yeah.
So since he started, I hired him out of college.
Yeah.
I've worked with Scott side by side in our office together, and then even coming out to the field, knowing we had him to support us. So no matter what type of project I'm working on, I really know I can dig deep.
Yes.
We have a lot of experts on our bench, a lot of folks who are great at what they do and know their job and know it well, not just from our safety or regulatory perspective, but even somebody like Scott who's got those anecdotal stories that are really powerful on meetings with clients. So that is a big thing for me. That's how I keep it consistent. I think, also our process is tried and true. We can everything seems a little bit kind of templated, but it's really bespoke and it's really customized for the client, but we have the roadmap. If that makes sense. So there's some guardrails set there, but they're not, you never have to worry about going off the rails, but we certainly can diverge and do different things. I mean, Jack and I work with not only big pharma, but we have small, we have mid, we have device, we have VC firms, we've got consumer products. We did a tape, like an actual tape for construction tape. I don't even know how to say it. I can't without saying the company. For a company that they do rolls of tape that construction folks are reading. Now you can scan it. And we name that. We've just done some really incredible things, knowing that Brand Institute has 32 years of experience and knowing that I could pull in my 25 years of pharmacy experience, but also my marketing degree, and be able to keep that consistency with a really amazing supportive team. I don't have to do much. So to really make it special for every client and consistent, I just look to my team.
One of the things I had hoped from this discussion was that, yes, you're very good at what you do. You've got the history, you've got the processes, but one of the things I wanted our audience and our ecosystem to take away from this, one of many, is the love and joy that you have for what you do,
personal
and the
experience.
culture. You mentioned that you and Jack go back to college. I remember you telling me those stories.
I was not in college, but yes, he was.
You got Jack,
I've got a few years on him.
You plucked Jack from college and all of that, but that makes a difference.
Yeah.
In a field as this, trusting your team, having a team that you can believe in their instincts, that has the history and the ability to work together. So thank you for sharing that. I think that's very important for our audience to take away from this.
Client relationships are huge for us.
It's everything.
And it's everything but we treat you like your family.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how we want to be treated. That's how we treat each other, good and bad, but always at the end of the day, I think important. So.
Love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
Absolutely.
So Jack, over to you. You often are the bridge between clients and the creative process. What do you think surprises clients the most about the level of rigor, testing, and linguistic review behind each name? What's that? Wow, we never thought about it that deeply. What do you think surprises them the most?
Yeah, great question. Scott sort of touched on this earlier, but our job in the field is to be liaisons between our clients and our operations team. So we're the day-to-day contacts. We answer questions as best we can, and then obviously leverage the expertise of our operations side when necessary and for those creative meetings as well. In terms of our overall process, this is a conversation we have a lot of times at conferences, including, at IC3 a month ago. When people see our banners and it mentions branding, we're typically one of the only partners that is doing anything in the marketing realm, so they want to come over and talk to us. We're sort of a breath of fresh air.
Hence your exclusivity.
Yeah.
Hence your exclusivity.
Exactly.
Yes.
And it's cool to tell people about the process. A lot of people haven't been through the branding or marketing process at all, specifically within healthcare.
Yeah, very much.
And so most people, like you touched on this too, are shocked to hear that there's a science behind it.
Yes.
A lot of people use the joke that we thought you were just throwing darts at a dartboard.
It really hurts our feelings.
Yeah, but sometimes I'll say, name a brand that you see on TV, and then I'll give them the creative rationale behind that, and they realize there's a whole story behind it, and we're actually speaking to a patient population and things like that. So being able to educate, especially smaller biotechs who haven't brought a product to market yet,
Yes.
who haven't been through the branding process, telling them first of all how long it takes, and to contact us as soon as possible so we can provide some expertise, but then also letting them know Brian touched on this earlier, some of the benefits. If giving a name or a brand or even a logo, asking us to help with your website, builds momentum behind what you're doing inside the lab space. So it's kind of cool. And a lot of the times when we do branding work with smaller biotech companies, they come up, or at the end of our workshops, we'll say that was, the most fun
Meeting
fun
we
meeting
had
we've
all
had all
week,
week,
or
right?
year, or sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
Now it's time to get back in the weeds. But we got to talk about brands and naming for about an hour. So that's a cool part of our process. And obviously we can get into the weeds as it comes to regulatory, regulations and whatnot. But.
Yeah, I think it's always a wow. When they find out what we do,
Yeah.
it's always to stop and what? Wow, that's a thing?
Yeah,
Always.
One of the things
Can't pinpoint one thing.
I share with people my science is the science of communication.
Yeah.
Right. There's an art form
Of
to
course.
communicating with people, and I think one discipline, when they understand the depths and the complexities of other disciplines, they appreciate that, right?
Absolutely.
Because it's fundamentally
right.
basically the same types of processes in a pursuit for. Not necessarily a perfection, but for a pursuit of an optimization of a something, right? And so that's very exciting, which leads me to this. Why this work inspires. And we're going to go personal here for a moment, and we're going to take a step back. Each of you bring different strength to this work, creative, operational, regional. What is it about this field and building brands for life-changing innovations that excites you personally? We're going to go right down the middle. We're going to start with you, Brian.
Oh, God, what
This
excites
is personal,
me personally.
man. What gets you excited about this?
I mean, what gets me going is, I'm a scientist by nature. It's what I went to college for. So it's always the science. It's always seeing new science. Even if it's old science being repackaged as good science, I love science. I love being able to see that. And I also just like being able to see some of the things that we do out there in public and know that we could help with that. One of the reasons why I got involved with Brand Institute in the beginning was through the subsidiary Drug Safety Institute, was because of patient safety. So as a pharmacist, I was really in a very odd, kind of time. There was a lot happening with epidemics across the nation. And I decided to take a step back and thought, how can I help patients overall? So risk of confusion is one of the things that we're really looking at when we're looking at brand names. That's one of the things that gets me out of bed every day, is knowing that we're going to create something that someone isn't going to confuse, that's not going to hurt them or harm them. And I think that was always the basis of me wanting to be a pharmacist. So it's in my family, it's in my blood, but that really is what excites me every day, is knowing that we can do this really cool, very niche thing and still help people.
Yes.
I feel like that was my calling, and I'm happy to do it every day.
Well, I'm glad you answered. I'm glad you answered
Thank
the
you.
call. Jack, same question for you. What is it about this field and building brands for life-changing innovations that excites you personally?
Yeah, for me, there's really never a dull moment, as you probably remember from the agency days. It's very fast-paced. You're always on your feet. You're always thinking on your feet. So that part's cool. But then almost opposite of Brian, I'm not a healthcare professional. I'm more of a brand strategy and market research, education, and background. So when we go into a kickoff meeting and we listen to the people who have come out of the lab and been developing the drugs for years, and they speak to the high science and what this is actually going to do to patients' lives, it never ceases to blow my mind. And then it's our job to turn all of that into a one-word mega brand for them. So
Single-minded idea,
Right.
as we used to call it.
exactly.
Yes.
So very fast-paced, but never a dull moment.
Awesome. Scott, you, same question.
Well, I'm last, so I better have it right. First of all, to get to create names for a living is pretty awesome, and I'm, forever grateful for. I have an advertising major. Thought I'd get into copywriting, and I was always good at coining things. So serendipitously found this job. So that's number one. But what I get excited about is probably the diversity of projects we get to work on, both within the pharma space. I just mean we work on over 75% of new drug approvals, name approvals every year globally. So that's hundreds of projects a year that we get to work on, and every one is unique, and we get to really flex our creative muscles. So that's a very exciting part of the job. It's not just drugs, as Brian said, company names and startups. So shout out to your audience. Recent partnerships like Proceed Biosciences, Alisio Therapeutics, Centessa Pharmaceuticals, some of them publicly traded. You can find them. Those were all very intimate, creative, and very rewarding projects when they were ultimately approved or when they were ultimately marketed. But what I get excited about now in 2025 is really AI. And I've been spearheading, along with some of my colleagues, the integration of AI into our business model, starting with creative. Had to go there, right? You had to. We recently launched 6 months ago. We launched our product Brandy, which is a creative naming platform or co-creation platform. So leveraging LLMs to generate great names at scale, to match the volume needed, but also with the quality of work that gets to be curated by myself and my team members to present to our clients. It's really opening the door of possibilities for us. So again. With this new technology, given the time I've been doing this, it's really kind of re-energized me, and very excited about what it holds for the future.
It shows, man. It shows. So, well, Scott, thank you, brother. Thank you for being here.
Appreciate
Thank you
it.
so much. And we're going to talk more. I think we got another segment coming up. Here, Charlotte, as well. Brian, thank you so much for
Give
what
me enough
you're
time
doing.
to change time.
Thanks for having
Jack,
us.
thank you, man. Thank you.
We'll swap our times.
This has been a great conversation. It was such a pleasure having Scott, Brian, and Jack with us today. Thank you both again for sharing your insights and for the work you do to help innovators bring clarity and confidence to this audience. To our listeners, this conversation underscores why naming and branding are so central to innovation. It is how ideas earn trust, reach patients, and ultimately change lives. And if you're part of the North Texas Life Sciences community, BioNTX invites you to join us. Whether as a member, sponsor, or supporter, your participation strengthens our ecosystem and helps drive the momentum forward. Simply scan the QR code on your screen to learn more about membership, sponsorship, and opportunities waiting within the BioNTX community. Thank you for tuning in, and stay with us for episode 2, where we will explore how creativity meets compliance through the regulatory side of commercialization. Thank you for joining us.